My wife cheated on me with her boss, stole $200, $0 from our joint account to buy his silence, and now she's claiming our house, worth $750, $0, belongs to her after a hidden will surfaced. I feel like I've lost everything. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be sitting here, writing this kind of story, but here it is. The craziest thing hit me like a truck out of nowhere. My wife, Lisa, cheating on me with her boss, Mark, and stealing $250,000 from our joint account to keep him quiet. I mean, I always knew she was a little high maintenance, but I never suspected she'd go this far. It's like my whole life just got flipped upside down in a matter of days. We'd been together for over 10 years, married for 8. We had a nice house, a good life, 2 kids, things seemed stable. I worked in finance, she was a marketing executive. She always played the busy career woman card, and I was fine with that. I thought we had a good partnership. But then little things started to bother me. She was more secretive about her phone, hiding her texts. She'd leave her laptop open sometimes, but when I tried to peek, she'd get defensive. Small stuff, really. I brushed it off, telling myself she was just stressed or busy. Things escalated about 3 months ago. I started noticing she was unusually tense, texting late at night, her phone always in her purse. She'd snap at me for no reason, then act all innocent when I asked what was wrong. I'd catch her in little lies, like when she said she was working late but I saw her at a bar with friends, or when she claimed she was at a conference but her hotel receipts showed otherwise. I didn't want to believe it, but I felt something was off. Then, a few weeks ago, I found her phone in the laundry room. I was curious, so I glanced at it. There were messages from someone named Mark, talking about meetings, plans, and keeping everything under wraps. My stomach clenched. I did want to jump to conclusions, but I knew. I started digging deeper, watching her more carefully. One night I followed her after she left work. She went to some upscale restaurant, then to a hotel. I waited outside, heart pounding. She came out with Mark, a man probably in his late 40s, well-dressed, confident. They kissed in the parking lot. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My wife, the woman I married, cheating on me with her boss. That was the first real shock. I didn't confront her immediately. I needed proof. Over the next few days, I checked our bank accounts. That's when I saw it 200 missing from our joint savings. I couldn't believe it. Who steals that much money? Then I remembered the secret texts, the late-night meetings. It all clicked. She'd been lying to my face, sneaking around, and apparently paying Mark to keep quiet. I felt numb. Betrayal, anger, sadness, everything hit me at once. How could she do this? How could she steal from us? We had plans, a future, and now I was staring at the ruins of it all. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed to be strategic. I couldn't just yell and accuse her blindly. I had to gather more evidence, understand her game, and figure out what her real plans were. That night I sat alone in the dark, staring at our empty bank account, wondering how everything had fallen apart so quickly. I felt like I lost not just money, but my entire life, my marriage, my trust. I kept asking myself, how could she lie so easily? How could she betray me like this? And the worst part, I had no idea what she was planning next. All I knew was that I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without a fight. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a mind racing 1,000 miles an hour. I knew I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I had to act, but carefully. I needed concrete evidence of what she'd done, and I needed to understand her motives. I started by going through every piece of financial documentation I could find: bank statements, credit card bills, emails. I needed to know exactly how deep this rabbit hole went. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. Hidden in one of her email folders was a series of messages between Lisa and Mark. They were secretive, full of code about arrangements, covering expenses, and keeping the house quiet. But what hit me hardest was an attachment, an email invoice from a wire transfer for $200, $0. It was clear she'd used our joint account to pay Mark off, to buy his silence. I stared at it, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. That much money gone just like that. I couldn't believe she'd do this. All these years I thought we had something real. Turns out she'd been planning this betrayal for a while. The money, her way of buying her freedom, or whatever she thought she was doing. I also found a receipt from a jewelry store where she bought a necklace and some earrings just a week before she left for that supposed business trip. I remembered her wearing it the night she left, acting all innocent. It was clear she was hiding something big. Now I had everything I needed to confront her, but I also knew I had to be smart. If she was capable of lying, cheating, and stealing, I couldn't just storm into her office or yell at her. I needed to catch her in the act or at least have undeniable proof. So I devised a plan. I would go to her workplace, see if I could find her, and maybe install a hidden camera in the house. I wanted to see her reactions when she thought she was alone, when she was talking to Mark or planning her next move. While I was at it, I reached out to a private investigator. I didn't want to tip her off, but I needed someone who could follow her, dig into her finances further, and confirm what I suspected. I gave him a list of things to look for: her contact with Mark, any new bank accounts, or hidden assets. It felt surreal, like I was living in a nightmare and couldn't wake up. That evening, I waited until she was supposed to be at her meeting. Then I went to her office building. I parked across the street, pretending I was just a concerned husband. I watched her come out, looking tense, clutching her purse. She seemed nervous, glancing around like she was hiding something. I followed her at a distance, keeping out of sight, heart pounding all over again. She went into a small, nondescript hotel, one I'd never seen her in before. I stayed in my car, trying to process everything. I felt angry, betrayed, and completely lost. How did I not see this coming? How could she lie so convincingly? I had trusted her for years, and now I was realizing that trust was completely shattered. The woman I thought I knew was capable of this level of deception and greed. I kept asking myself, what's next? Do I confront her? Do I fight for the marriage or cut my losses? The only thing I knew for sure was that I couldn't let her get away with it, not without consequences. I was already planning my next moves, thinking about how to get her to admit everything, how to protect myself, and how to make her pay for what she had done. I just hoped I wasn't too late to salvage what was left of my life. The pain was overwhelming, but I knew I had to keep going. I couldn't let her win this easily. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing, replaying everything I'd uncovered during the day. The images of her sneaking into that hotel, the pictures of the wire transfer, the receipts, each detail burned into my brain. It was like a bad movie I couldn't turn off. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all this? How did I not see the signs? I thought I knew her, but now I was realizing I barely knew anything at all. I decided I had to confront her, but not right away. I wanted to be prepared. I needed her to slip up, to give me an opening. I spent hours planning how I'd approach her, what I'd say, and how I'd keep control. I also reached out to a lawyer I'd found through some contacts, someone who specialized in marital disputes and hidden assets. I wanted to know my rights, what she could claim, and how to protect myself legally. The more I learned, the angrier I got. She was trying to pull some kind of scam, claiming the house, our house, was hers based on some hidden will she'd supposedly found. That was the next shock. I'd never heard of any will, and I knew for a fact she'd never mentioned one. I had to verify this. I contacted my lawyer, who told me that if she was claiming the house, she needed to produce the original will, not some fake document. I asked her outright about it, and she just sneered, calling it all part of her rights now and what she deserved. She spun this story that she'd been wronged, that I'd been neglectful, and that she had a right to everything because she was the main breadwinner now. The audacity of her. Meanwhile, I discovered something else. She'd been secretly transferring money into a new bank account, one I didn't even know about. I found the account details through some bank statements she'd left open on her laptop. It was clear she was planning to run, or at least hide, her assets. She had also bought a new car, paid for in cash, and was talking about moving out of the house for her own safety. I felt like I was losing my mind. How could she lie so smoothly? How could she think she could get away with this? The biggest shock came when I finally confronted her face to face. I arranged to Meet her at the house where I knew she'd come to pack her things. I was nervous, but I had to do it. I wanted her to hear it straight from me. I knew everything. When she arrived, she was her usual bitchy self, smirking, acting like she was the queen and I was just some fool she was playing. She tried to deny everything at first, claiming I was crazy, that I was paranoid, and that I was accusing her of stupid stuff. But I laid out the evidence, screenshots of the transfer, the email invoices, her secret bank accounts. Her face twisted in anger. She yelled, called me paranoid, jealous, and said I was just insecure because I couldn't keep up with her. She told me I was lucky she was even still with me after everything I'd done wrong. But I wasn't backing down. I told her she'd crossed the line, she'd stolen from us, betrayed me, and tried to steal our house. Her eyes flashed with rage, and she spat back that I was just a stupid, controlling husband, that she was done pretending, and that she was taking everything, our house, our money, everything. That moment was a turning point. I realized I couldn't fix this, not with her. I felt a mixture of disgust, heartbreak, and a strange sense of relief. My world was falling apart, but at least I knew the truth now. I told her she needed to leave, that I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine, and that I'd make sure she paid for her lies. She stormed out, screaming, calling me crazy, jealous, and a fool. I watched her go, feeling like I'd been punched again, but also knowing I had to pick myself up. The aftermath was chaos. I contacted my lawyer again, started the process of legal separation, and told her that any attempt to claim our house based on that hidden will was pointless without proof. I also contacted the bank to freeze her accounts, and I began gathering all the evidence I could find. It was clear she was trying to run, but I was determined to stop her. I felt betrayed beyond words, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd been blind, but now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, greedy woman who'd lied her way through our entire marriage. I was angry, yes, but I also knew I had to be smart. This wasn't over yet. I had to fight for my rights, for my future, and somehow I had to rebuild from this nightmare. The days that followed were a blur of legal meetings, phone calls, and endless nights staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything that had happened. I was in full-on damage control mode. My lawyer advised me to keep detailed records of all communications, transactions, and any new evidence I came across. I also hired a private investigator to keep tabs on Lisa, just to be sure she wasn't planning to disappear or hide even more assets. I knew this was just the beginning of a long battle, and I had to stay one step ahead. One thing that kept gnawing at me was the house. That was the biggest bone of contention. Lisa insisted she owned it now because of some hidden will, but I knew that was bullshit. I'd never heard of any such will, and I had all the original documents proving our ownership. I also got a copy of the will she claimed was hidden. It was a forgery, plain and simple. She faked it to try and claim what wasn't hers, probably thinking she could scare me into backing down. I also found out that she'd been talking to a real estate agent, trying to find a place to move into once she'd gotten rid of me. I felt a mix of rage and disappointment. How could she plan her escape while still pretending to be the loving wife? I'd caught her red-handed, and yet she still had the nerve to act innocent. I knew I had to be ready for her next move. Meanwhile, the financial mess was a nightmare. I contacted the bank, and they confirmed that she'd transferred the money into that secret account and was trying to drain everything she could before I could stop her. I also discovered she'd been taking out new credit cards, maxing them out, and even trying to open a new line of credit in my name. I felt like I was fighting a losing battle, but I refused to give up. I had to protect what was left and make sure she couldn't just walk away with everything. One particularly shocking event was when I found out she'd been secretly meeting with her lawyer, someone she'd hired behind my back, trying to get legal advice on how to claim the house and hide her assets. I had no idea she was planning all this. It made me realize just how deep her deception ran. She'd been scheming for months, maybe even longer. I remember the day I finally decided to confront her again. I called her out, told her I knew about her meetings, her plans to run, and her lies. She tried to deny everything, but I had proof, screenshots, bank statements, recordings. Her face twisted in anger and she told me I was just jealous and insecure, that I was holding her back. She said she deserved more, that she was done being controlled. I just looked at her, feeling a mixture of disgust and heartbreak. How did it come to this? How could I have trusted her? That night, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the documents spread out on the table. I realized I was at a crossroads. I could try to salvage the marriage, but honestly, the trust was gone. Or I could fight for a clean break and protect what was mine. Deep down, I knew the latter was the only way forward. I felt betrayed, furious, and exhausted, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything. Not this time. I was going to fight for every penny, for my house and for my dignity. She might have thought she could manipulate her way out of this mess, but I'd make sure she paid the price for her lies and greed. I was done being the naive husband. From now on, I was going to be the one in control of my future. The legal battle dragged on, and each day felt like an emotional. I was poring over every document, every email, trying to find some crack in her story, some way to prove she was lying. She kept insisting she had rights to the house because of some hidden will, which I knew was a lie. I had our original paperwork, the estate records, and the notarized documents proving we owned it outright. The fake will was just her desperate attempt to cling to her false claims. Meanwhile, Lisa's behavior was getting more erratic. She was furious that I was fighting back. She called me names, accused me of trying to ruin her, and even accused me of cheating on her, which, honestly, I wasn't. She'd scream at the top of her lungs, calling me paranoid and possessive, trying to turn the tables. But I had enough evidence now to show she was the one scheming behind my back, not the other way around. One day, I caught her in a lie that was so blatant I couldn't ignore it. She told me she had no idea about the secret bank account I found, but then I got a hold of her phone records. There were calls and texts to that account every week. She'd been funneling money into it for months, possibly planning her escape. That was the final nail in the coffin. I knew she had been planning this from the start, and I didn't know, routine was just that, a routine. I also discovered she'd been trying to sell the house secretly, talking to a shady real estate agent. She wanted to get rid of it fast, probably to hide her assets and avoid losing everything. I contacted the agent myself, told him I was the rightful owner, and warned him about her. I made it clear I'd pursue legal action if she tried to sell without my approval. The last thing I wanted was for her to walk away with a profit, leaving me with nothing. Throughout all of this, I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and helplessness. It was like watching someone you loved turn into a complete stranger, someone capable of betrayal and greed. But I also realized I couldn't let her control the narrative anymore. I had to stand my ground, no matter how much it hurt. I hired a forensic accountant to dig into her financials further, to uncover any other hidden accounts or assets. Every new piece of evidence confirmed she'd been lying and scheming from the start. The most shocking moment came when she finally broke down during a heated argument. She admitted that she'd married me mainly for the stability and the house, that she'd been unhappy for years, and that Mark made her feel alive again. Her words cut deep. She said she wanted out, wanted the house, and didn't care about the marriage anymore. That was when I realized this wasn't just about money or the house. It was about her complete disregard for everything we built together. At that point, I knew I had no choice but to push forward, no matter how much it hurt. I was tired of the lies, the manipulation, the betrayal. I decided I would fight to get what was rightfully mine, our house, our savings, and my dignity. I wasn't going to let her walk away with a single dollar or the house we worked so hard for. I had to be relentless. Even if it meant losing sleep, I was going to make sure she paid for her lies and greed. This wasn't just a fight over money or property. It was a fight for my life, my future, and my self-respect. The final stretch was the hardest. After months of legal battles, secret investigations, and emotional exhaustion, I finally had the evidence I needed to make my case. The court hearings were brutal. Lisa tried every trick in the book, fake documents, emotional appeals, even crying on the stand, but I had the truth on my side. Our original house papers, the bank records showing her transfers, the forged will, all of it was irrefutable. When the judge finally ruled, it was like a heavy weight was lifted from my shoulders. The court confirmed that the will she presented was a fraud, that the house was legally ours, and that she had no right to claim it. The judge ordered her to return the stolen $200, $0, and to cease all attempts to sell or claim the property. I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness, knowing I'd fought for what was right but also mourning the loss of the life I thought I had. Lisa's reaction was bitter. She yelled and cursed, calling me every name under the sun, but there was nothing she could do anymore. She was ordered out of the house and I moved back in, reclaiming what was left of my life. The house was dusty and empty at first, but slowly I started fixing it up again, making it feel like home. The sense of betrayal still lingered, but I was determined to rebuild, better, stronger, smarter. In the end, I learned a lot about trust, deception, and the importance of paying attention to the small signs. I realized that sometimes the people closest to you can hurt you the most, and that fighting for yourself is the only way to truly move on. I also learned that greed and lies can destroy everything you hold dear if you're not careful. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the warning signs sooner, but I also know that you can't change the past. What matters now is the future. I've started therapy to deal with the emotional scars, and I've become more cautious, more aware. I still miss the life I thought I had, but I also feel a newfound strength inside me. To anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation, trust your instincts, gather your evidence, and don't be afraid to fight for what's right. Sometimes, the truth needs a little help to come out, and it's worth every painful moment to reclaim your life. In the end, integrity and honesty matter more than any house, any money, or any lie. I've lost a lot, but I've gained clarity, resilience, and a sense that I can face anything now.